I would say I have a bit of a, I guess a bit of a reputation for breaking the simulator in ways, that only a caveman in the modern era could.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Flight Path SDI's podcast about everything drones and UAS. I'm your host, Christian Sequerra, event coordinator here at SDI. I am joined today by James McDanolds and Don Heon. How's it going, guys?
Outstanding.
Great. Great.
Outstanding. We have some very special guests today, guests that hold a special place in my heart. Well, at least one of them, and he knows who he is. But today we're joined by the Zephyr guys, Beau VanBuren and Dustyn Brewer. How are you doing?
We're hanging in there. We're happy to be on the podcast.
Do you know
Doing
which one of
great.
you holds a good place in my heart? Special
It's gotta
place
be
in my heart?
Dustyn.
No,
Yeah.
I'm new.
No. But Beau and I have been best friends. Something fell out of James's wall, but that's cool. We'll leave it in.
Just keep the show
Yeah.
rolling.
Again, he lives in a house that was built in the 1700s, so it's probably ghosts.
It's the
Telling ya.
ghosts. Yeah, for sure.
It's a
Definitely some angry
1000%.
colonial soldier or something.
he got a poltergeist in
Terrified.
there.
I am
This is the
terrified.
best way to start a drone podcast. Anyway, so Zephyr, we utilize Zephyr in our program. James, what kind of impact does it make having Zephyr here at SDI?
So I would say it's a huge impact from my standpoint because instead of just throwing students who may have had no experience flying a drone before and saying, hey, we're just going to have you fly this drone live for the very first time, it's always nerve wracking for first time individuals flying these things. So it's best, and it also follows a good aviation training procedure to put them in a simulator and have them practice there first, get that comfortability level up a little bit more higher before getting their hands on with the live aircraft first and foremost. And can't thank the Zephyr team enough for actually making this resource for us to be able to use within the SDI programs on the SUT side of the house. I gotta ask, Beau, like how'd Zephyr get started? What was the
Actually, hold on. Let's go into, and I probably should have done this. What is Zephyr? Let's explain to the viewers that aren't our students what Zephyr is.
Yeah, so Zephyr is a fully featured training simulator for teaching people how to fly unmanned aircraft, mostly quadcopters. Currently, in the future, we would like to branch out into fixed wing and some of the other types of unmanned aerial vehicles, but presently, mostly quadcopters.
And by full force, I mean it's pretty wide ranging on what Zephyr offers. As far as a simulator, it's made with things like Unreal Engine. We use an incredible mathematics and flight mechanics, so it feels like you're flying a drone. It tabulates all your data, aggregates it, and allows you to essentially gamify becoming a better drone pilot, and offers everything from scenarios like obstacle courses all the way up to things like search and rescue with real world applications. So when we say like it's a simulation, it is truly a simulation. Like you are improving your skills for real world usage and building up that muscle memory by being able to use an actual controller, whatever controller that you like. We've got a broad range of compatibility with controllers. So you're able to take your skills in a virtual setting and then apply those to the real world. So it's got a lot of use case. It's pretty incredible the work that goes behind it.
Yeah, since I've been more on the gun side than the drone side, I've definitely kind of taken to utilizing Zephyr and practicing on the simulator beforehand for the few flights I've had, recreational flights I've had on an actual drone, because drones aren't cheap. So, and especially the drones you get to choose from on the simulator, I'd rather crash those things on the simulator than crash
There,
the ones you get to utilize on the simulator in real life.
there are some very expensive drones in there.
Yeah, very
Uh,
much so.
like
But
some
that's
of them, I think one of the drones in there's like close to 40 grand. And it's like,
yeah.
yeah, I'd really rather not crash this real product into a tree. Maybe I better learn, on the sim first.
And not just crash that into a tree, but you could also like there's a lot of destruction to person and property that could happen. But one of my favorite things to tell anybody that's a newbie trying out the simulators, like just take it up as high as it'll go and then slam it into the ground because now the pressure's off. You've crashed the simulated drone. Darn, you know what you have to do now? Reset and start again. So that's out. That's over. That's done. Now you can just focus on the learning. And you could actually see the anxiety just kind of melt away a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, I can do this.
You don't die in real life. That's what I tell all my people that I'm
That's right.
playing Apex or Battlefield with. It's like, just
Get a
go,
one up.
just do it, you know? So,
Just
all
You
right.
die in the
pixels.
game. You die in the game. You die in real life.
I've seen that
Whoa.
movie.
Playing gamer now? All right.
All right. So, James, I know you're asking about background. Let's get into that. What did you have for him?
Yeah. So like what you know, what made you guys want to start this? What made Zephyr come into place, seeing the need that needs to be filled by creating this simulator?
I think so. Generally speaking, the company was started by Kyle and my older brother and Alex Eastup, which is a close friend to both myself and Dustyn. So like they all met in college. They were all part of a game design degree. They kind of met each other that way. Um, it actually came about through one of our other things that we were working on, where we were developing a incident command simulator for a different group. And I believe we were approached and they were just like, have you ever thought about like simulating drones? And it sort of took off from there. No, like there was nothing really in the space doing it at the time. So they just kind of filled the niche. So that's just the kind of like short of it. But yeah.
And I agree with you there. Like all we had for the longest time was there was a few FPV drones out there. Like DRL was obviously a thing. For the longest time, it was like Phoenix R radio controller like simulator flight, which is I don't think that's even supported anymore or being developed or keeping track of anymore. And then besides that, there was just real flight. There
Yeah,
really
I was getting ready to say when I'm pretty sure when we started out, Real Flight was the only thing that was kind of like in the same kind of space where they were focusing more on like the teaching aspect of it versus like or like the skills base versus like actual just drone racing. So like there is something to be said about that where like, you know, customization options in DRL are all kind of like cut and paste kind of situation where like each drone handles the same from what I understand, versus ours, where each drone has its own individual physics profile that's all bespoke, done in house. Like nothing that we've seen as of yet handles the way that Zephyr handles each drone.
That's pretty awesome, and you're all right. Yeah, Real Flight was the only one, and even comparatively, like to Real Flight, Real Flight really only had some basic level tutorials. They don't have what Zephyr has with the actual application specific training, as well as putting them in an environment where it actually makes sense instead of necessarily. And not to bash on Real Flight here, because I learned a lot on Real Flight when I was getting into radio controlled aircraft back in the day, but all they had was like little circles and small cones to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. No hate to like anything because
No,
like, you know, a lot of those things walk so that other softwares can, you know, run. So,
exactly.
That's
you
deep.
know, it's one of those things where like you don't know where you need to go unless you start. So part of the reason why Zephyr can be as good as it is because we take feedback from our customers and we extrapolate on that.
It was a really fun thing that we did at CUAV this past year in Las Vegas. Anybody that came up and interacted with us, tried the sim out, whether they had used us before or not, whether they had an idea of something that they wanted to see added or had an issue with something that already existed. We took that, put it on some multicolored sticky notes, and created a wall. And by the time we left, we came back with a bevy of information that we could synthesize and actually start to apply to the simulator. And watching our dev group, which is a very small team, seeing their eyes light up with all this influx of new information and actually being there to see that interaction was wildly beneficial. So yeah, we take that kind of stuff to heart. It goes a long way with us. It's our best test bed is our users and our ability to be able to react quickly because of, you know, essentially our size. We're pretty versatile.
Are you two involved in the dev stuff pretty closely, or what are your guys' positions?
Man,
Well, so yes and no. I would say I have a bit of a I guess a bit of a reputation for breaking the simulator in ways that only a caveman in the modern era could. So I generally break stuff when they do new releases or if they're about to do like a full new release or like a prototype build. I get my hands on it and then I'll break something usually and then they fix it. And it kind of like goes back and forth like that for a while, but I'm not the only one. So
Dustin, how about you?
So my background's pretty colorful. Honestly, I come from the shooting industry as well. I worked in online retail for a group called Mid South for years and years. Really, where I kind of applied my skills. But after opening a brewery and then subsequently closing down that brewery, I was speaking with Alex, one of the founders, who got very close with, and he's like, we could really use some branding and marketing direction. So that's what brought me in. I'm the brand manager, client success manager, and as of recently, doing some business development management as we're kind of growing. And Beau is the other half of my brain. Like I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that I do without Beau. He's our marketing coordinator, event coordinator, travel planner. He sells himself short far too often because I wouldn't be able to do my job half as effective without him. But the team overall is pretty impressive. It makes my job super easy to be able to come out and be an evangelist for a product like this, seeing what kind of care and quality goes into it and being able to share that with other people really makes it an absolute pleasure. But that's kind of my thing, is making sure people know us, understand us, and reducing that friction and taking away barriers so that people have the best experience with Zephyr from start to finish, whether they are a continuous client or they have to go in and come back, or whatever. My job is to make sure that they have a great time with us and to make our bosses lives a lot easier. That's pretty much written into the job description.
I
Yeah.
know how that goes.
Right?
Well, going back to the development side, other than programming or whatnot, what kind of challenges did you see as far as trying to get all the aspects of realistic drone flight into a sim into different scenarios? So I know you guys have a bunch of different drones you can fly. How do you make it real?
The biggest problem that I see our dev team face in that arena is really time. If they had all the time in the world, or the computational skills to, click a button and go lightning fast and add everything, this thing would be a absolute masterpiece. As it is, the pieces that we do have in it are incredibly high quality. Because again, we're a 14-person company total. And you take out myself and Beau, and then really Kyle's too busy for a lot of that stuff, and our two sales guys. So that you start to see that pool get a lot smaller. So for what we have, it's pretty incredible that these guys can pull this off. But really, it's time is their biggest hurdle, and then um, getting a hold of what we need and trying to keep up with what's available in the marketplace. I think every single person on this recording right now can testify to the fact that, like, we are strapped to the front of a bullet train and it is zooming down the track. Drones are growing at an exponential rate. Access is going up by factors. Like it's wild.
It's even fascinating to look back and think about like the first conversations that I had with James, like when we first started talking. It was like 2021 or 2022 or something like that.
Yep.
And like drones in general have just so different, even from like 2 or 3 years ago. Like it's so fascinating to watch, but at the same time, kind of horrifying. Because like to Dustin's credit, yeah, we're going somewhere and we're going fast, but it could be anywhere.
Yeah, I don't want to play on that. It's a perfect analogy, strapped to the front of a bullet train, but except you don't have a seatbelt. You got to
No.
use all your power to hold on and keep
Yeah.
on in order to keep pace with the industry because it's going so fast. And the limits of this technology is truly and currently the imagination and all the individual parts of the technology that gets put together, which plays back to really what you said is you have it's a small team, 14 people. Like normally, like when you're talking about game development or even just to support software like that, their studios dealing with hundreds of people. You guys truly have a rock star team to be able to
Yes.
do what you're doing with Zephyr Simulator and keeping it up to date. And like you said, just have the time factor. And that's always going to be, you're always going to be pressing forward on that because the industry is always going to be changing. So to meet that, you're always going to be trying to keep up with it. And you're doing a very good job of that, just from what I've seen. I mean, like Beau said, when we first talked and first getting hands-on with Zephyr, when we were integrating it into the Certificate of Uncrewed Technology Aerial Systems program, to even what it is now, it's in the very short amount of time, it's always had leaps and bounds and just what you guys had to offer and the capabilities of it as a software to where like as we add more courses and as we do stuff in the future, it's easy to integrate Zephyr into those for more practical, hands-on skills that students can learn while doing it.
Love
I
that.
just want to say I absolutely love it. I really think it's great what you guys are doing and what you've been capable of doing. There hasn't been another product like it as far as in comparison what you get and what you can do with it. And the huge factor is, like you said, you take the feedback. You're constantly looking to improve,
Well, yeah,
and that's huge.
I think that's honestly one of the biggest things that sets us apart.
I
Like
agree.
we wouldn't we wouldn't really be where we are without, the friendships that we've made by going to shows and stuff like that. And like our partnership with you guys, our friendships that we've made with, departments of public safety across the country. Like we get a really good amount of information on what they need, and then we act on it. So, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it really seems like a layup compared to like shooting three pointers or whatever. But it's like, you just take the information that you get from the people that you trust and then you just go with it.
Well,
And
and
that's,
to expound on that a little bit too, like we don't know what we don't know until we know
1000%.
until we're notified. And to turn your nose up at any of that information is just it's so foolish, especially when you've got bigger players entering the game like the bureaucracy of federal governments or international laws. As these other actors get involved, it behooves us to remain versatile and take in that information because it's not just new products, new technology, new users, it's also new laws, new requirements, new benchmarks. So it's a lot of plates to spin and keep our eyes on the prize. So that's why it's exciting that we're in this growth curve and we've got, I think, a hell of a team assembled to be able to take care of it. But man, I think we're all in for a wild ride over the next decade.
oh, yeah, for sure.
I didn't even think about that, but you guys are international, correct?
We are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
currently we have a couple of overseas contracts going, as well as something that we'll talk more about later, but a partnership going on with a gentleman in South America.
And so you do have to, is it like your whole team working on making sure, I don't know, the drone industry, different rules and regulations in place for different
Or
places in the
less.
world?
It really
How do you
depends
keep up
on
with that?
where. It
Yeah.
really
We're
depends on
kinda
where.
we're more bound by the laws of the US and where we can operate, how we can operate, and making sure more than anything that Uncle Sugar gets his piece because Uncle Sugar gonna get paid. So
We'll
we
see
gotta make sure
the
the taxes are right. We gotta make sure that the money's going in the right buckets. That's the biggest thing. But
yeah. So
when
for
you've got
instance,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, for instance, with somewhere like Australia, they have their own version of the FAA, which is called CASA, where like they have their own set of rules, which are similar to the ones that the FAA has in for the 107, but they have flight time requirements that you have to meet before you're able to get your license, kind of like with the driver's license here. Um, where they actually have a time increment that you have to fulfill before you can get licensed and fly commercially. So like taking that into effect, but a lot of them have the same, like, you can't exceed a certain altitude. You're supposed to keep eye contact with the drone, so on and so forth. But like some of their, like in Europe and Australia, are much more lasered in on the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the actual,
Measurable.
like, they're more stringent on everything.
Yeah. Well,
You
and
can't
we're
just,
also the US
do
is
your test
setting
or
the
whatever.
standard for a lot of this too. Like even in Japan, Beau was telling me this after his visit there, like they're adopting NIST or at least
For
a
the most part,
very
it seems, yeah.
similar version to that. So I think just like us kind of staying on the bleeding edge of like what's happening and what's coming, I think everyone else is kind of looking to the sector to see what is going to be the standard that is set. So there again, too, like us having a voice in what's happening and being present and trying to stay as knowledgeable as possible will help the rest of the world kind of come up along with us. Sort of that Nietzscheism where we're only as strong as the weakest link. So if we bring everybody up to our level, then, rising tides raise all ships. So we want to bring everybody with us. It's not exclusionary, even with our partners. Like, it's putting that information in there and putting it out there is only going to benefit us. So I hope that we get to continue to kind of help set that standard, not just Zephyr, but the US.
And it sounds like you are. I know you guys have the NIST BPERP certification in the Zephyr simulator as an additional certification that the individuals can even be proctored by and get that additional recognition.
Yeah, so through APSA specifically, yeah. I don't know 100%. I'm pretty sure NIST isn't able to actually give any actual credentializing.
You're right.
Like,
Yeah, it's just
Right.
that.
but through APSA, I think it's an actual partnership between APSA and NIST, where they can do the BPERP certification as part of their structure. But yeah, you definitely can do that in the sim.
And it's good to hear that other countries and other civil aviation authorities are looking into possibly incorporate that, because in reality, when you think about it, like just with Part 107, if you go and route memorize something, you could technically pass the course, but do you really have any practical flight skills or proof of those practical flight skills?
Yeah,
Not
true.
necessarily if that was the only thing you did. So having that BPERP certification from APSA is another way of proving yourself in a way to those, either if you're looking to be hired or as a contractor or so forth. So you guys are really already keeping ahead with just having that in the case and not just here in the US.
Look, I know we'll talk about testimonials and stuff later on, but I got to see one of the coolest things. One of my first outings with Zephyr, because I live in Boston and we had a LIDA conference in Framingham. So just right down the road from me. I was able to drive to it, met up with my sales guy, Brandon, and we got set up and they were actually running the NIST course for certification for a lot of the different, um, like search and rescue, public safety, and police up here in the Northeast. Had a guy come in from rural Maine, which I don't know if you guys have been to Maine, but most of it's rural. And dude came down. He was the only member of his police group that had ever even touched a drone. And his captain gave him a drone in the box and said, "Go get certified." And he's like, "I don't even know how to turn this drone on." He's like, "Figure it out on the drive." Dude drove down, came to the conference, set up, went outside, and they're like, "Are you here to get certified?" He's like, "Yeah, I just need some help turning this thing on." Got him kind of set up. And the proctor's like, "Have you flown a drone before?" He's like, "I flew my cousin's drone once." And he's like, "Go inside, go find the Zephyr guys. They've got something set up in there that I think could be a big help." So he comes in, he's standing there watching a couple people on the sim because we have it set up where people can actually interact with it. It's finally his turn. He picks up the controller and just white as a ghost. Like, he doesn't know what to do next. So I saddle up to him. It's like, "Look," and told you what I said earlier. It's like, take it as high up in
Smash
the
it.
air as you can, smash it on the ground. He was like, "What? Why would I do that? I'll get bad points." It's like, trust me. He does it, and then you could see him like, "Well, that's not so bad." Guy stood there for 2 hours. He's like, "Is it okay if I continue?" It's like, "You take all the time you need. I got you set up on the furthest one down the line. You're good." He flew this thing for 2 hours. Few different scenarios, but mostly NIST. Got done, went outside, found that same proctor, ran it twice, passed.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
It just
That's
blew me
huge.
away. I had never seen anything like that where he actually built up muscle memory, practiced enough, went outside, took the course, and was able to pass it on his second try. That to me speaks volumes for use case. Like, it's just one of the coolest things. Sorry, I had
That
to share that while we were talking about,
no,
applications and
No,
things
that's
like that.
it brings up a good point, and it's used. I went to an APSA proctoring certification course back in September 2023, and there were some people. There was a lot of those individuals there that either had their certification already or had experience. Had to fly in confined space, and some of it was kind of squirrely. It was hard getting used to, especially when it was the first time doing the confined lanes in live flight. if it, like, say, if at the time you guys had that NIST certification, it probably would have been an easier process sorry, the AFSA certification probably would have been a little less like nerve wracking to fly those confined spaces. So when you're flying confined, we were setting up on a post that maybe gave you a 3 foot gap between the post and the wall to fly between. And that was intense when you're flying it for the first time. You got to be really careful. It would have
Absolutely.
brought down the nerves a bit if you could do it in simulation first. And again, that just goes back to what you said, and that speaks huge amount of volume in that short amount of time. Able to turn around from nothing to being able to get past and set up on the open test lanes is amazing.
It's
It's awesome.
something. It was really something.
It's like how I passed my driver's exam.
Well, there's got to be a story there.
Oh yeah.
It's out of laziness. I practiced for like 3 days because my permit was going to expire. Like, well, you're going to take tests again. I'm like, no, I'm not. And,
Nuh-uh.
and barely passed my first time.
Not
But
hitting them
hey,
with the nuh-uh.
I'm still here.
Pass is a pass.
Passes.
Don,
Yeah.
you've been quiet. What do you got?
I was just wondering, how people, as they get older, they reach 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever it is, people actually start driving slower on the freeway. I just wonder if people will start flying slower the older they get.
Interesting.
I mean, just want to
That's
throw that in there.
not a thought I've ever had.
You know, I
Don, give me
honestly
40 years and I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think
for
they'll
sure.
fly slower, but I do think that with something like Zephyr, they could probably keep their reaction times sharper.
One of the things you mentioned that really caught my attention is that muscle memory that you get a chance to build in the simulator. And the physics that are a part of that simulator help translate those muscle memory skills into direct flight. I remember being a young kid skateboarding, and I only got better because I built that muscle memory. But
Mm-hmm.
having a simulator is a great way to build that muscle memory. With the logistical supply chain changing as we, like you say, on this bullet train, we're starting to bring in more manufacturing, chipsets, drones, manufacturing, they're banning all the foreign imports. Have you guys in the simulator space been affected by anything on the logistical supply chain, i.e. chipsets,
Sure.
stuff like that? Like how much has the logistical supply chain affected your day-to-day operations?
Well, I mean, it affects planning and strategy because we have to know what's going to be available in the marketplace and areas that we can capitalize on. In fact, I'd read just yesterday that they are now amending the whole DJI block that they had fought so hard to put in place and try and curtail innovation, in our humble opinion. But knowing how malleable things are, especially right now, we have our set of items to accomplish, and we're trying to keep head down on those and move forward. Because I think right now, unless you've got some kind of really awesome magic 8 ball, it's kind of a crapshoot. But that is constantly on our minds about things like chips and RAM, because you have to have a computer to run this thing, right? So just access to having a computer can be a barrier. So we have to keep those things in mind. And then all the parts that it takes to make the drones, the quality of those drones, where they come from, and then the information that they give back and forth. So I guess to answer your question, it's constantly on the forefront of our minds, but the only things that we can really do is set up I guess, our own strategy and try and live by that. And then hope for the best that we're not wasting time going down this path because for some reason, some bureaucrat decides that we're not going to continue down that path anymore. It's tough, whether that's entering new markets or new technology as well. We've seen
Yeah.
both.
Sort of kind of set ourselves up to look more into like the energy sector and
Yes.
like, try and offer some kind of training or, some kind of simulation for processes that they do for like oil derricks or like wind turbines
Oil,
or
windmill, solar.
solar.
Yep.
All those things is a field that we haven't really looked into. And like to Dustin's point earlier, we have no idea what they need, but we're positioning ourselves to where we can have those conversations and we can figure out how best to help them. And then we'll do that.
At CUAV, we got clued into something I'd never even thought of, and I'm a big conservationist and was talking to some folks with their wildlife, game and fish,
Yeah.
and they've been utilizing drones to track whitetail deer migration. Incredible! Like, what a
There's-
neat use case for the ag sector.
There's them and Snotbot for the whale stuff.
It's not
I think that's so cool.
Snotbot?
that is the neatest
called
thing. It
Snotbot.
sounds disgusting, but it is freaking rad.
So
Is
they
it an
use
acronym? Like, why?
no, it's literally just
It
Snotbot.
literally, yeah,
Ooh.
they collect snot from whales.
They fly the drone
Yeah.
through the.
Yeah, when the whale services
Weird.
and
That's so okay. So
exhales.
now the name makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
It's still cool, and
It's
like
really cool.
we got approached by them. Actually, one of our team members, Josh Syme, I think you guys met him at CUAV, but he's super passionate about that whole side of things. But I think
Snot.
it's such a cool use case for a drone. Like,
Yeah. So like we don't know what we don't know. And again, Don, to answer your question, like as we take this stuff in and explore it and we set our sights on it, we hope for the best and hope things don't deviate too much. We've got such a big backlog of stuff anyway that there's always something for us to work on, tweak, and make better. But yeah, we love the challenge. I mean, it's a brave new world. So we're going
Yeah,
full
like-
steam ahead.
when we put the Avata 2 in there, we had to completely rework a whole bunch of the physics of other drones because of it adding a whole different access because of how it turns. So, like, we weren't expecting to have to deal with that, but by trying to keep true to our physics profiles, we had to adjust. So it's one of those things where, and we got a lot of feedback at CUAV about how wrong the Avata 2 was.
Huh?
Because a lot of people real passionate about the Avata 2. Let me tell you.
Very much so.
So when we got that information from them, they were just like, this is wrong. This is wrong. It shouldn't fly like this. Why is it flying like this? We were like, whoa. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
What was your name? Right. We're writing it on the card, sticking it on the wall.
That's going
Here's a
on the
feedback
wall.
form. Here, I'll take this.
Huh? Going right on the fridge.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it all goes back to like, the sim is very much the sum of all of the feedback that we get from customers and friends and people who test everything out for us. So thanks.
Yeah. For sure.
And
well, what's funny, I can only imagine because I don't know if our viewers can tell, but Beau's not a small guy. He's like 6'12". You know,
I am
and
6'2",
just somebody coming up.
350 pounds.
Yeah, somebody going, hey, this is not flying the way it should be. Why isn't it like that? Just getting up in your face, which probably not.
Excuse me?
There's not many people that make me feel like the small guy in the group, but I had the unique pleasure of having Beau come up here and hang out in Boston for a few days. And he and I riding around on the trains, just enjoying like people watching. It's like, I'm not the big protector guy. He is. Like, this is nice. I feel very taken care of right now.
Especially when he holds
Imagine anyone
Oh.
being angry at Beau. It's like a leprechaun going up against the giant.
I wonder constantly how much my size has affected like the way that people treat me throughout life.
But might I say, the most gentle giant I've ever met.
Oh, yeah.
you. Oh,
Absolutely. Again,
Y'all are too sweet.
no, we need to constantly pump Beau up because he deserves every bit of it and won't let himself have it. So,
He's one of
A
those
mensch.
gentlemen who's very humble about
Yeah.
it.
You got to stay
And it-
humble and you got to stay hustling.
that's kind of the whole ethos of everybody at Zephyr, though. Again, we all got to be together at CUAV, which is rare for us because we work all over the world. We've got a guy in Ecuador or Nicaragua.
He's in Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. I'm in Boston. We got a couple guys in Tennessee, Minnesota, Virginia.
We're pretty far flung
Yeah,
across.
but every
America.
single person approaches this every day with a level of enthusiasm and passion that just makes my life so easy. Being able to share in that and feed off that energy and put that back out, man, it's incredible. Everybody's humble, everybody's proud of the work they do, and they do put in a lot of work.
now I know we touched a little bit about this in the beginning, James, but when and how exactly do our students get to experience the Zephyr simulator?
Well, right off the bat, in any of our SET programs. It's one of the very first things they interact with hands-on wise in UAS 101, which is the first class for Associates of Science in Uncrewed Technology and a Certificate of Uncrewed Technology Aerial Systems. They're introduced to that first because we want to make sure that they're, again, like we mentioned, we want to get that nervousness out of the way. We want to get them exposed to the simulator. And essentially, they're starting off by doing the basic maneuvers, going through some of the great beginner modules that Zephyr has set up for them to get familiar with, and we encourage them to build out those flight hours and get more time as long as they have access to the simulator. And then we transition them to flying a small drone that we send them to say, okay, you've practiced in the simulator, now to get you some familiarity in live flight, but that's not where it ends. In UAS 250, both programs as well, they get access to Zephyr Simulator. And what we're doing is that we're having them do the maneuver that they're going to be doing on the live aircraft for their assignment, and they're practicing it in Zephyr for a set amount of hours before they get to the live flight. So they actually have to show that they've been doing it in Zephyr before they get to the live flight aircraft. So they're building up in different ways and seeing the immediate benefits of that. So that's where we're using Zephyr. But as we build out, say, we focus on specific applicational workflows, Zephyr already has that built in for us to take advantage of and have the student actually practice those workflows in as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, and to mention on top of what James said, each scenario is graded when depending on how well you go through the hoop or whatever scenario you're doing, you get a score report at the end, and A through F or whatever the case may be. But it's graded, so you can kind of see results on how well you did.
And
Yes.
just not just for the student themselves, not just if I had some system tell me in relation to rules and regulations how I was performing, it would have helped me a little bit better when I got started. Because after 10 hours of being trained by an instructor at a radio controlled aircraft field, my first flight ended up going up, then immediately nose down, and then crash. Well, what did I do wrong? I really had no one to tell me at that time.
That is one of the other really cool things about the simulator is the LMS side of things, which I feel like kind of gets overshadowed a lot by the glitz and glam of the simulation parts of it. But if you're a real numbers nerd, there's a lot of really interesting information you can glean from the LMS side of things, particularly teacher-wise. Like it pulls all of the data from your students' flight logs. You can look at all that stuff. You can export it to a CSV with as much data as you want.
Ooh.
Down to like flight time in seconds if you really want to get real granular with it. But there's a lot of good information to be had on there, and it is one of the things that sets Zephyr apart from like real flight because we track all that information.
And speaking of real flight, we now have an integration with air data. So it will also aggregate the data with real drone flight through air data into our LMS. So you're able to get your sim flight and real flight, all information in one nice little hub. So we're real proud of that one. We instituted that, 3 weeks ago, right before Christmas? Somewhere in there. So that's relatively new, but a really cool partnership. Super, I don't know. It's really symbiotic. It's great.
Well, that's fantastic to know, because for us, we tell our students to track their flight hours when they're doing it in simulation hours. Now that you have that fully integrated, it's going to make it even easier. We just need to make sure the students know at the front end. So I think we just added some work for ourselves here, Don. Whoops.
You're welcome.
So
That's the Beau. No, but seriously, those reports have actually, like when I was an adjunct instructor using it, those reports came in handy when looking at the Zephyr dashboard and saying like, okay, the student's got a B, but why? What's the case here? What's the reason? I'm going as a reports, I'm breaking down and say, okay, how can I give that substantive feedback to the student? Like, how can I tell them, hey, you got a B, here's why, here's what I would recommend to do to improve that score or feel more comfortable on the sticks. And I can get an analysis, a breakdown from that report that I can say, okay, they lost visual line of sight twice. Okay, why is that? Stick input, is there a familiarity with like how much the throttle gains are set and things like that? What can I tell them to try to improve that feedback? So as an instructor who really wants to provide that specific feedback, those reports help in pinpointing where and why in most cases. And to hear that you can export them in a CSV, it makes me wonder, is there an AI tool that we could take a student's profile throughout the reports, and then set it so we could see a full performance map of either singular modules or multiple modules and like see performance ratings over time. Just spitball, not proposing anything. Just I'm like, hey, it brings up a thought,
Yeah.
an idea. Anyways, I'm done. I'm not gonna. I'll stop.
But
I promise.
Beau, if you were able to create an AI module that would do this, what would you name it?
Well, I mean, I kind of like the naming conventions for some AIs where it's just like grok. So I don't know, like probably name it something wind. I'd probably call it. I'd call it Eddie. EDD.
That's like the farthest thing from like grok, like it's
But
like
so like
Steve.
Eddy is a term for like a gentle stream or like a gentle current of water.
Or
So it
air.
kind of works.
Is that
Yeah.
like the Queen's English? I have never heard that term.
It's
Eddy?
an Eddy, bro.
It's an Eddie.
I call it a crick.
I know about some cricks, but a crick is a type of is a type of body of water.
Mm-hmm.
An eddy is a type
Little
of
creek.
flow.
That's right.
Okay.
But also eddies can be in the air too. So it applies to Zephyr and Flight. Now we're really getting into branding. Now we're getting into my stuff. This is the kind of thing that
Where did Zephyr come from? Like why Zephyr and not like
Name
something else?
specifically.
So
Like Frank.
it's one of those things where it's like it's a really cool word. So we were just
Mhm.
like, hell yeah. But it's also a term for a type of breeze. It's like a sharp wind. So a zephyr, which is like a lower form of a gale, kind of thing. If you want to talk about tears of wind.
Well, we've been talking about tiers of water flow, so I guess
Hey,
that's kind of how all the naming conventions go. Oh.
Well, it's one of those things where it's just like a lot of us come from a gaming background and we're just like, Zephyr sounds really sick. Let's use that.
Well, it's used a lot in fantasy writings too. Like a lot of times you're talking about like smaller dragons and things like that with drakes riding on using zephyrs to push themselves up higher into the sky. I don't think there's a one
It's
amongst us
because
that hasn't picked
we're-
up a controller.
because we're dirty, stinking nerds.
We are. It's a bunch of freaking nerds, man.
Sorry, it's not a more like nuanced thing, but it's definitely because we're a bunch of geeks.
Yep.
And we're just like, yeah, Zephyr sounds sick.
Yeah.
Let's use it.
Cool name.
If it sounds cool, it plays well, it is cool.
It's two syllables. It's
James
If
gets
your
it.
mom
It's
thinks he says
also,
so, it's cool.
also one of those things where you hear the word and you're just like, and then it kind of earworms you a little bit.
refreshing.
So
A zephyr.
It's like a little ear tickle.
it's hard to
All right,
forget.
James,
How
what
many
else you
Z
got?
words do you know?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, and it follows the, like you said, two syllables, hey, or the inference, like, oh, hey, Zephyr, halo. Oh, both of them, you could say it in 2 points. Got it. And they're both great. Thanks. All right. I'll stop. Promise. All right. So we were talking about a little bit on, where Zephyr is going. I think it's really cool that I know you're focusing on the uncrewed aircraft side of this, but really, with the other applications and just robotics in general, I think you guys have the capability to do not just the air side of it for robotics, but also like ground and maritime as well. And
So-
let me know if you can't talk about this, but has Zephyr thought about like doing the ground and the maritime side as well, or not really?
It has definitely come up.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I know that we've talked with a group before about maritime because the way that wind works in a simulated space works the same kind of way as water would. The math is apparently the same. I asked my brother about this a long time ago because we were talking with this group about diving submersible type of situation. I think it was called like the Hercules or something like that. But at the time, I was just like, that seems like it would be so different because like I don't come from a development background. Like I work on cars for most of my life and kind of got shoehorned into this because of sales. And then they shifted me over to marketing. But apparently, the way that the programming works is very similar between water and air. So it's something that we definitely could do if there was more of a demand for it. But right now, we're just not seeing the same level of demand as we are for aerial vehicles. As far as the ground is concerned, that's a whole different thing. Because once you get into like how things like interacts with like hills and like different levels of terrain and like potentially putting in like, if we were to do like say like a a scenario where you have to like take one of the like Boston Dynamics dogs through like a hoarder's house or something like that, it would obviously do a lot better than something like a tracked bomb disposal robot. So like you kind of have to take those things into effect as well. So the answer is not yet, maybe.
Got it. Got it. Got on the maybes. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of factors that are
Yeah.
going into that. Now, besides the ground space and the maritime space, I know you talked about looking more about in the energy infrastructure, and I understood you mentioned search and rescue. When you're developing things for search and rescue, are you also looking into like disaster response, like rapid damage assessment, other things like that?
Yeah,
It's
that's all
actually
things that are coming down the pipeline. Along with it, we're on the cusp of releasing our thermal portion of search and rescue. That is fast approaching. Hopefully, last I heard, maybe before February is out. I doubt we'll get it before January is out. Hopefully, beginning of February. We're doing some final tweaks, but it
so
is impressive.
so it kind of calls back to our excellent team. So the problem with us is that we are hyper fixated on delivering as close to real as it can possibly be. And like we could have easily just thrown in like a shader that does like Metal Gear Solid or whatever type thermal imaging and like had it be like, oh, well, everything's blue except for this one orange thing. But like the first time I ever got introduced to thermal in like the drone space, I was in North Carolina in the summer. Everything was orange. There was not a single spot of blue on that whole thing. So like going from like I came back to the guys, I was just like, we need to make sure this is perfect. So we took that and like it's getting really, really close, like Dustyn said. And like it's really interesting to see how these types of things evolve because like even between like the first pictures that I saw of our thermal versus the pictures that we saw like last week of our thermal, night and day difference.
And
Like
not
it's
just the difference
so
between
staggering.
those, but like our the guy who's developing this, name's Dane. Brilliant fellow. Probably a bigger Zelda nerd than I am. So great guy. He pulled up side by side images of what he had created in our search and rescue module, where you could see the lost hiker on the path, and butted that up to next to a real world image of a FLIR camera shot of a similar situation. And it was startling how similar they were. It was incredible. So
We're so excited.
we're so pumped. It's going to be awesome because we have different search and rescue scenarios, not just the lost camper and lost hiker, but there's also beach scenarios where you have to find the lost person on this busy Miami beach, uh, putting in some other stuff for public safety and police where they can, follow a specific person or vehicle. The applications of this are pretty awesome, and we're making it drone specific too. So it has to be those drones that are able to carry that piece of technology and then utilize that, because to Beau's point, everything that we do in this is very intentional and very purposeful. So it's not just a blanket thing where we plug and play. It's a simulator. We were trying to simulate it as much as possible.
The payload functionalities.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to speak a little bit more on the emergency response part of the question. So that's the main reason I was in Japan. I attended the World Robotics Summit over there in Fukushima, where they had a bunch of teams come over to compete to find missing people and like to use various types of drones to save people from different types of disasters. So like one was like a reactor meltdown and like a busted up facility with like fires going all over the place. And they were using like ground tracked robots with arms to move like pipes out of the way and stuff to position a drone through there and find survivors. Another one was using the aerial drones to fly out over the ocean and then back towards like flipped over like missing like tanker and like all kinds of really cool stuff. So like I brought back a lot of really good information from that, and like we're going to be hopefully using that to, inform some more types of scenarios that we can build in that space. And like just it was so cool to see how other, you know, cultures and people are using the drones versus how we use them here. So like I've seen the way that like South Manatee, Florida's emergency unit. Rich Gatanis uses they've used the drones to provide air for people who are trapped under clouds of chemicals and to search through destroyed trains and all kinds of stuff. So it's all just really neat to see how creative people can get with something that seems so limited at the time. They even had I think Rich's team even they 3D printed handles for their drones so that they can carry them in as cameras for their situation command to still be able to see even if they
That's
can't put the
cool.
drone into the air.
Right.
That's amazing. And it calls back to the fact, like you said, these tools and the technology, the limit of it is that of the imagination.
Yeah,
Even if
for sure.
there's a technical limit, someone else is going to figure out a way to use it, even with what it's currently technically limited to.
Yeah, it's just 3D print a handle and carry it like a camcorder.
Like,
who'd have thought of that?
Right.
You know?
3D printing and UAVs are like the perfect mesh of creativity when it comes into play. And you get me
Necessity.
excited with what's coming with the search and rescue modules because and the amount of work that's gone into it. Because I'm already thinking of where we can place that into the program. So I can't wait till that's announced and released. I have a question about the thermal resolution, if I may. So because there's 640 by 512 and 320 by 1. I think it's 320 by 120 or something similar to that. Does it have different modes to show what the results would be for those different resolutions, or is it kind of a fixed set resolution?
That's a great question.
That is an excellent question for someone who is not
We don't
Dustyn
know.
or myself.
Nope.
Got it.
That
Okay.
is a Dane question all day. I
Write that
know it's
down.
been
Write that down,
discussed.
Beau.
That is
I
definitely a
figured I'd give
Dane
it a shot.
question. I will type it up and send it to me. I'll
Yeah, for
ask
sure. We'll
you.
find out.
But
We'll do it.
that's the thing is if Dustyn or I don't know, we'll find out and we'll spin that sucker.
And I'll tell you if I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you, but that's a
We
little bit
we
above
do
my
know
pay
that
grade.
we're doing more than just red hot. I know we have
Mhm.
white hot, black hot, iron bow. We have red hot. We have night vision. I think is one of the ones that we're working on as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah,
a
IR
whole
rainbow.
slew of things that we're working on, but I do not know the resolution question.
Mm-hmm.
No worries. I figured I'd ask, and you already beat me to the next question. Was going to be okay, is it more than red hot, blue hot, so on and so forth?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
all the different shades to it. That's awesome. That's great. Sorry, I need to ask that question just out of pure
You're okay.
curiosity.
Yeah,
Like I
for
said, I'll
sure.
figure it out. We'll figure it out for you, and I'll get back to you. But I don't have an answer for that right now. No.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. That's cool though. The amount of work that's already been put into it, though. I'm excited. That one-to-one similarity is huge.
Shout out
Yeah.
Dane.
Yeah, big shouts to Dane and honestly the whole team on search and rescue. For what
sure.
we already have deployed with just those few search and rescue modules and knowing what else is coming in behind it down the pipe, it's just going to be a much bigger deal, I think, than what we realize right now.
That tool alone would have been huge. I used to be part of the Civil Air Patrol when I was a teenager. That tool would have been huge for an organization like CAP, where now they're using drones for search and rescue and they're training cadets how to use them. But just to train them in advance on how to use that different sensor instead of just the visual sensors out there, absolutely would have loved that.
Yeah. No, even the prompts within those modules for search and rescue are things that I think were brilliant because I'm a big hiker and backpacker and stuff, and knowing what someone would do walking down the trail, leaving an axe here, sleeping bag there, shirt here, whatever, and then being prompted to find those things, catalog them, take pictures of them in case it does need to report back, those line of sight features, things. Like I said, the level of quality and care is pretty great. My only complaint is that the figure that we have, she's wearing
Stiletto
heels,
heels.
and that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, you say that, but remember when we were doing the four-wheeling in the desert? Those guys were telling us how they've had random people come to do four-wheeling in stiletto heels.
That's true. That's also Las Vegas, so that doesn't
look good,
feel good.
It's people do things with weird gear.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do.
I can't say that there's never been a hiker with stiletto heels.
Yeah, got to be ready to party at any moment in Vegas, either within the city limits or outside of it. It seems
there's hiking in Vegas, so that could be that scenario. We're wrapping close to time. James, Don, did you guys have anything for the Zephyr guys?
No last questions. Really, thanks for being able to take the time to come on. Thanks to you and the team for creating an awesome tool, not just for here to use for SDI students, but for others in the industry to use as well. Highly useful. And it's great to hear that it's constantly evolving and you're constantly listening to the feedback. I'd say that is the biggest thing because those who don't listen to feedback, they often tend to, fade off into the distance. Zephyr, see you guys being around for a very long time and doing this for a while and just keep making it better and better as it goes along. So thanks again for being on the podcast and for what you and the team do. Sincerely.
Thanks for
And
having us.
Yeah,
And-
it's a pleasure.
I know Christian and I have been joking about this for like probably 4 years now about coming onto a podcast type situation and just talking. So
Well,
it's
we'll
interesting.
have a Japan podcast on your stream at some point.
Looking forward to it.
That'd
Don,
be
what do you
great.
got?
I was just going to say, to piggyback on James, one of the things that I think sets your simulator apart from any other simulator that's on the market is your LMS system. And so, I'm glad that's your perspective, is because simulation is all about training and giving that feedback to whoever's using it. And that's one of the things I appreciate about your software and your system, and why it makes it so easy to integrate it into our course curriculum. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
We're thankful that people like it so much.
Yeah, definitely.
They like us. They actually
They
like
really
us.
like us.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where it's just like I said, I think the LMS gets overshadowed, but it is an excellent piece of kit, in my opinion. So
It's really cool. And again, that my newness is wearing off. I've been with the company since June, but every day just it feels like it's all over again, like stepping into something like a breath of fresh air. So glad I get to do this. Glad I get to work with partners like SDI and meeting all of you has just been an absolute blast. Getting to push something out there into the world that I think really does serve a really overall a good purpose, and I think is going to continue to help people and help this community that's starting to grow. And getting to be a part of that's it's a real honor. So thanks for having us on, guys, and for all the questions and everything. I hope we were able to impart a little bit of wisdom out there and help people understand what we're doing a little bit better. So thank you for that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Of course. There's a lot of thanking right now. You guys are so sentimental. Anyway, Dustyn or
Well-
Beau, if somebody wanted to find out more about Zephyr Sim, where are they going? What are they doing? Where are they looking?
Please allow me. You can find us every Thursday on YouTube at 1 p.m. where we live stream.
Eastern.
In fact, Eastern time. Yes, thank you. I'm not used to being Eastern. I'm used to being Central. But yes, 1 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube at Zephyr. Actually looking forward to having you guys on before too long as well. Hopefully can reciprocate this and let our
Yeah.
people know what's going on at SDI. But you can find us there. You can find us on LinkedIn, especially. That's kind of where we put a lot of our time and focus is LinkedIn and YouTube. We do a little bit on Facebook and Instagram, but not a whole lot. But we've got a whole bunch of new short form content coming down the pipe that Beau has put together that's going to be pretty fun. But yeah, definitely come by, see us, hop in chat, send us a comment, send us a message. There's no dumb question. We're here for it. So
Send
looking
us to your
forward to
friends.
send us to your friends.
enemies.
That's right.
We don't care. A view is a view.
Crush your enemies. Yeah, find us annoying. Share us with your enemies.
You guys have a website, I assume, as well.
Yes.
We do. Zephyr-sim.com. You can start there. Come hang out with us and start seeing what all we have to offer and how you can be a part of it.
Yeah. And I'll post Dustyn's phone number up here too, so you guys can contact him as well.
That's fine too.
But you can also fly their sim in one of our programs, whether it's the certificate program or the associates. And to find out more information about that, you just go to www.sdi.edu, click on request information, do all the stuff, talk to all the people. But for James and Don, thank you guys. This has been the Flight Path. Everybody wave bye.
Cheers, everybody.
See
Bye.
ya.